"Nobody's buying Tesla anymore" was once the kind of sentence that sounded impossible. Tesla was the name people pictured when they imagined the electric future. But something has changed around that image. The cars are still on the road. The factories are still running. Yet the attention, the excitement, and the new buyers are moving somewhere else. 10 EV brands are now stepping into the space Tesla used to own, and the strange part is how quietly it happened. This is not about one bad quarter or one angry headline. It is about a shift that became visible only after the crown started slipping. So who is really taking over? The crown changes hands. In 2025, Tesla delivered 1.64 million vehicles worldwide. For most car companies, that number would look massive. But for Tesla, it carried a different meaning. It was down from 1.79 million in 2024, and it marked the second straight year Tesla had delivered fewer cars than the year before. That had never happened in Tesla's history. Even worse, Q4 came in 15.6% below what analysts expected, turning one bad year into something harder to dismiss. The strange part is that Tesla's decline did not happen because the electric vehicle market was dying. The global EV market grew 20% in 2025 and reached 20.7 million units sold. Buyers were still moving toward electric cars. Governments, charging networks, and automakers were still pushing the shift forward. So the problem was not that people stopped buying EVs. The more serious question was why so many buyers stopped choosing Tesla. The warning was even clearer in the United States. At the start of 2022, Tesla controlled 75% of all US EV sales. By 2025, that share had fallen to 46%. Tesla was still the biggest single EV name in America, but it no longer owned the market the way it once did. In just 3 years, its commanding lead became a smaller lead under pressure, and every competitor could see the opening. Globally, the crown had already changed hands. For the first time since Tesla became the face of electric cars, it was no longer the world's best-selling EV manufacturer. That title now belonged to BYD, a Chinese company most Americans have never seen on their streets. In 2025, BYD sold 2.26 million EVs, more than 600,000 ahead of Tesla. That was not a small warning sign. It was a shift in power. This is not about Tesla disappearing. Tesla still sells hundreds of thousands of vehicles and still carries enormous influence. But the real change is more specific. Every gap Tesla left open, in price, trust, technology, and geography, was filled by other brands. 10 companies moved into the space Tesla once controlled, and most of them are still gaining speed. If the EV market was growing, why was Tesla, the brand, losing ground? The answer begins with something that had little to do with the cars themselves. The brand that broke itself. Tesla's decline did not only show up in delivery numbers, it showed up in the value of the name itself. In January 2023, Tesla's brand value peaked at $66.2 billion, according to Brand Finance. By 2026, that number had fallen to $27.61 billion, a drop of more than 58% in just 3 years. The damage was not measured only in money. Brand Finance pointed to weaker scores in reputation, trust, recommendation, and even coolness, with the sharpest drops coming in Europe and Canada. The sales numbers in Europe made the problem harder to explain away. In early 2025, Tesla's EU sales fell 36% compared with the year before. At the same time, total EV sales across the EU rose more than 17%. That matters because the market was not rejecting electric cars. Buyers were still moving toward EVs. They were just choosing other brands. This is where Tesla's problem stopped looking like a demand problem and started looking like a brand problem. The political question also became measurable. A working paper from Yale University economists, led by Professor Kenneth Gillingham, studied county-level registration data from 2020 to 2025 across Democratic and Republican areas. The goal was to separate Elon Musk's political activity from wider market trends. Their finding was specific. Musk's partisan actions cost Tesla between 1 million and 1.26 million US vehicle sales, while helping rival EV brands grow by 17 to 22%. The damage reached people who had already bought the cars. Some Tesla owners began putting bumper stickers on vehicles they had paid $60,000 or more for, saying, "I bought it before Elon went nuts." That small detail showed how far the brand had shifted. A Tesla used to tell people something about the future. Now, for some owners, it became something they felt they had to explain before anyone asked. The competitors were ready when Tesla's image started to weaken. But the next crack had nothing to do with politics. It was sitting inside Tesla's own product lineup. The first crack: no new cars. Tesla's deeper problem started before the political backlash became the headline. The last true mass-market vehicle Tesla launched was the Model Y, which began deliveries in 2020. For the next 5 years, competitors refreshed their cars, opened new price ranges, and built new EV platforms. Tesla mostly answered with price cuts and cheaper versions of the same models. One side was creating new demand. The other was trying to protect what it already had. Tesla's global plug-in market share shows how serious that gap became. 2 years earlier, Tesla held 13.3% of the market. By 2025, it had fallen to 7.9%. This was not one weak quarter or one bad launch. It was a steady slide. The EV market was moving faster, while Tesla's lineup was aging in public. Buyers had more choices, and for the first time, many of those choices felt newer than Tesla. The removal of the $7,500 federal EFI tax credit made the weakness easier to see. In Q3 2025, buyers rushed to purchase before the credit disappeared, pushing Tesla to a record 497,099 deliveries. But that surge was temporary. Once the credit was gone, Q4 deliveries fell 15.6% below analyst expectations. The spike made the drop look sharper, but the real issue was simple. Tesla had been leaning on price help that was no longer there. Price cuts kept some delivery numbers alive, but they created another problem. Every discount moved Tesla further away from the premium image that once supported its high valuation. A cheaper Tesla could still sell, but it also made the brand feel less special. The company was not expanding from strength anymore. It was defending its position, and each cut made the retreat more visible. While Tesla was managing the retreat, other brands were moving into the empty space. The first one had already taken the global crown. Brand 1 and 2. The volume giants BYD did not just pass Tesla by a small margin. In 2025, BYD, Build Your Dreams, sold 2.26 million battery electric vehicles, more than 600,000 ahead of Tesla. When plug-in hybrids are included, its new energy vehicle output reached 4.6 million units. The scale is difficult to ignore. BYD employs more than 920,000 people around the world, compared with Tesla's 134,000. This is not a small challenger catching a giant. This is a much larger industrial machine moving into the same race. BYD's advantage comes from more than size. The company builds its own blade battery cells, which gives it more control over cost, supply, and production speed. That matters most at the low end of the market, where Tesla has no real answer. The BYD Seagull sells for roughly $12,000 to $14,000 with about 300 kilometers of range. Tesla's cheapest car starts at nearly 3 times that price. In markets where BYD can sell freely, the price fight is not even close. The global expansion is already visible. In 2026, BYD overtook Tesla, Kia, and Volkswagen to become the top-selling EV brand in the United Kingdom. In April 2026, it became the first Chinese automaker to lead overall vehicle sales in Brazil. Its overseas EV exports also hit 135,098 units in a single month, up 70% year-over-year. That is why this is no longer just a China problem for Tesla. BYD is proving it can win outside China too. Technology is another part of the pressure. BYD's second-generation flash charging system can take a battery from 10% to 97% in about 9 minutes. Tesla spent more than a decade building its identity around the supercharger network, where real-world 10 to 80% charging often takes 20 to 30 minutes. BYD is not only competing on price and volume, It is attacking one of Tesla's most important advantages. BYD and Geely are winning the global volume race. But the next threat is closer to home. Brands already fighting Tesla buyers in America and Europe. Brands 3 and 4. The quality challenges. Hyundai and Kia did not catch Tesla by accident. They spent years building the eGMP platform, a dedicated EV system with 800-volt electrical architecture. Most mainstream EVs, including Tesla's main lineup, use 400-volt systems. The difference matters because it affects charging speed in the real world. A Kia EV6 can go from 10% to 80% in about 18 minutes at a 350 kilowatt charger. Tesla still had the bigger charging network, but Hyundai and Kia had built cars that could charge faster when the hardware was available. The quality argument became harder to ignore in 2026 when the Hyundai Ioniq 5 won Kelley Blue Book's Best Overall EV Award in the United States. Hyundai also cut the base price by up to $9,800, bringing the entry point to around $35,000. That placed the Ioniq 5 directly near the Tesla Model 3 in price, but with the feel of a mainstream family crossover. These were not strange niche cars for early adopters. They were normal, usable EVs that suddenly looked like safer choices for buyers leaving Tesla. The important detail is that Hyundai and Kia did not simply copy Tesla's formula. Their engineers built a different answer: faster charging, strong design, and practical family layouts. Tesla's supercharger network still gave it a major advantage in North America, but the fastest charging ability on the vehicle side now belonged to Hyundai and Kia. That changed the conversation. Tesla was no longer the only brand that made EV technology feel advanced. Volkswagen Group became the European side of the same pressure. In 2025, VW delivered 465,500 battery electric vehicles in the first half of the year alone, up 47% year-over-year. Full-year EV deliveries grew 32%, lifting its global market share from 3.7% to 5.6%. Models like the VW ID.4 and ID.3 were not trying to look futuristic. They were familiar cars from a familiar brand, and that made them powerful in Europe. Tesla's middle market pressure was already growing. But the next threat came from two American alternatives chasing buyers who once had almost nowhere else to go. Brands 5 and 6. The American alternatives. Rivian looked like it might not survive in 2023. The company had burned through billions, missed production targets, and faced the same doubts that had already destroyed other EV startups. But then the R1T and R1S found a buyer Tesla was not really chasing. These were not people looking for a clean, minimal sedan. They wanted electric trucks and SUVs built for camping, trails, gear, and long weekends. Rivian gave them capability instead of just software. By 2025, Rivian had reached a turning point. The company posted its first ever gross profit, $144 million, after recording a $1.2 billion gross loss the year before. Revenue also grew 78% in Q3 2025 compared with the year before. CEO RJ Scaringe, the only American EV startup founder still leading his company outside Elon Musk, described the R2 as Rivian's next major bet, a more affordable model aimed at buyers who liked Rivian but could not justify the current price. The Volkswagen partnership made Rivian harder to dismiss. Volkswagen, one of the biggest automakers in the world, invested in Rivian's technology stack and committed to jointly developing EV platforms. For Rivian, that deal brought money, scale, and validation. For Volkswagen, it brought software and architecture it needed. Together, they created a stronger position than either company had alone. American adventure EVs on one side, European mass-market EVs on the other. Lucid is taking a different lane. It is not chasing the average EV buyer. It is targeting the $80,000 to $140,000 luxury space where Tesla's Model S and Model X once stood almost alone. The Lucid Air holds the longest EPA-certified range of any production EV, passing 500 miles on one charge. In 2026, both the Lucid Air and Lucid Gravity received Car and Driver 10 Best Recognition. Lucid also guided for 25,000 to 27,000 vehicles in 2026, up from 15,841 in 2025. The American alternatives are no longer just surviving, but the fastest moving threats are coming from brands that barely existed in the EV race a few years ago. The ones you didn't see coming. Xiaomi was not supposed to become an EV threat this quickly. It was known as one of the world's largest smartphone manufacturers, not a car company. Then it entered the EV market in 2024 with the SU7 sedan, a car compared to the Porsche Taycan in design and the Tesla Model 3 in price. In its first full production year, Xiaomi sold about 135,000 units. That ramp was faster than Tesla's own early Model S rise, and it showed how quickly a tech company could become a real automaker. NIO is different because it has been in the EV market longer, but its 2026 numbers show how fast the company is moving now. In May 2026 alone, NIO delivered 37,705 vehicles, up 62.3% from the year before. Through May, its year-to-date deliveries were up 68.7%. More important, NIO is no longer one brand chasing one buyer. It now has NIO for premium customers, OnVO for families, and Firefly for the subcompact market. NIO's battery swap network adds another layer Tesla does not fully match. Instead of waiting at a charger, a driver can swap a drained battery for a full one in about 5 minutes. In China, where NIO operates thousands of swap stations, this is not just a clever feature. It becomes a real advantage for fleets, taxis, commercial drivers, and anyone who cannot afford to sit and charge. Tesla built charging speed into its image. NIO built a way around charging time. Other Chinese EV makers are moving just as fast. Leapmotor climbed from 12th place in the global EV rankings in 2024 to 6th place in 2025. XPeng grew deliveries by 129% year-over-year in 2025. These brands are not trying to beat Tesla in the United States yet, but they are taking share wherever they can enter: Europe, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and South America. Tesla is not losing one market. It is being squeezed across many. The fastest challengers are still mostly outside the US market, but the next two brands are already inside it, and one of them is now America's #2 EV seller. The American establishment responds. General Motors is no longer watching the EV race from the side. It is now the #2 EV seller in the United States. In August 2025, GM set a monthly record with more than 21,000 EVs sold across Chevrolet, Cadillac, and GMC. The Chevrolet Equinox EV starts around $35,000 on the Ultium platform, putting it directly against the Tesla Model 3. But GM has something Tesla does not: a dealer network, service centers, and brand familiarity across the country. Cadillac is the part of GM's EV push aimed at Tesla's upper range. The Lyriq and Celestiq are not experimental side projects. They are luxury EVs built for buyers who may have once looked at a Model S or Model X, but now want something with a more traditional American luxury name. Cadillac's year-over-year EV gains into 2026 show that this is not only a brand exercise, it is becoming a real alternative for premium buyers who want distance from Tesla's new image. Ford's position is more complicated. In 2026, Ford pulled back from its all-electric push and moved harder into hybrids. The F-150 hybrid became America's best-selling full-size hybrid pickup in 2025, and Ford's total hybrid sales rose 21.7% year-over-year. That does not mean Ford is abandoning electrification. It means Ford is reading the market differently. Buyers may not be ready for every vehicle to go fully electric, but they are still moving away from pure gasoline. The loss of the $7,500 federal EV tax credit hit every electric brand in America. But legacy companies like GM have a cushion. Tesla does not. They can use dealer financing, service relationships, trade-ins, and familiar showrooms to catch buyers who hesitate on Tesla. When someone walks away from Tesla because of price, politics, or brand concern, a Chevrolet dealer can absorb that buyer without needing to rebuild trust from zero. 10 brands are filling the gaps Tesla left open. But Tesla's own answer may not be another car at all, and that changes the entire race. What actually happened to Tesla? Tesla is not bankrupt. It is not shutting down. It still sells more EVs in the United States than any other single company. But the real change is more serious than one bad year. Tesla went from defining the EV market to fighting inside it like everyone else. 4 pressures hit at the same time: brand damage, old products, lost subsidies, and faster competitors. Together, they turned Tesla from the company everyone chased into the company trying not to lose more ground. The clearest evidence came from Yale University. Professor Kenneth Gillingham's research did not simply say Elon Musk hurt Tesla's image. It found that Musk's political actions cost Tesla buyers in a measurable way, and those buyers did not disappear from the EV market. They went to competitors. Rival EV sales rose 17 to 22% because of that shift. Tesla's loss became the competition's gain, and that is what made the damage harder to dismiss. Brand finance showed the same pattern from another angle. By 2026, Tesla's brand value had fallen to $27.61 billion, down from a peak of $66.2 billion. A company can recover from a slow quarter, but rebuilding trust is different. Trust takes years. In Europe, where Musk's political endorsements created the strongest backlash, the path back is even less clear. Tesla did not just lose some buyers. It lost part of the meaning that once made people want the badge. The product pipeline made the problem worse. Competitors are now launching new platforms, new price points, faster charging systems, and fresh features every 12 to 18 months. Tesla's next major vehicle, expected around 2027, will enter a market that has already moved forward again. That means Tesla is not simply catching up to today's rivals. It may be trying to catch cars that are already 1 or 2 steps ahead. If Tesla is no longer racing to win E5 volume, the final question becomes harder. Who is left to stop BYD, Geely, and the next wave behind them? The 10 brands taking over Tesla's space are not moving at the same speed. BYD is already the global leader, with a 2026 target of 5.0 to 5.5 million NEVs. Geely is closing in on Tesla's number 2 global position. NIO is growing at nearly 60% a year. Rivian has crossed into gross profit. Hyundai and Kia are winning American awards, while Volkswagen remains Europe's strongest EV force. This is not one challenger arriving. It is a wave. The American market is still protected by a wall Tesla's rivals cannot easily cross. A 100% tariff keeps Chinese EV brands like BYD, NIO, Geely, Xiaomi, and XPeng away from most US buyers. But tariffs are policy decisions, not permanent facts of nature. If trade rules change, or if Chinese brands enter through Mexico, Europe, or partnerships, the US market could shift faster than American automakers are ready for. Tesla's answer is no longer only another electric car. The company is betting on its Austin Robotaxi pilot, FSD software, and Megapack energy storage. If those businesses work at scale, Tesla may not need to win the EV sales race the same way it once did. But that is also the risk. If robotaxis take longer, if FSD licensing grows slowly, or if competitors like Waymo and Chinese autonomous players close the gap, Tesla may have waited too long to defend the car business. What happened between 2023 and 2026 is rare in modern business. Tesla helped build the EV industry, dominated it for years, and then lost control without one clear plan to take it back. Some of that came from Elon Musk's political choices. Some came from an aging lineup. Some came from lost tax credits. Some came from China's manufacturing scale. The real answer is probably all of them arriving at once. The final question is not whether Tesla survives. It almost certainly does. The harder question is whether Tesla still means what it meant in 2022 when the next generation buys its first electric car. If the answer is no, then 2025 may not be remembered as a bad year. It may be remembered as the year the EV race stopped belonging to Tesla. And if BYD ever enters America in a serious way, the biggest question will not be whether Tesla can recover. It will be whether any American EV brand has the scale to stop what comes next. Tesla may still survive, but the old fear around its name is fading. The next EV era is being written now, and Tesla may not be holding the pen.